Hello everyone and welcome to the biology lecture series, and today we'll be discussing the topic transportation. So in the previous lecture we have already studied about the transportation in the plants. So we discussed about the transportation in the higher plants, how the transportation of the water and the transportation of organic molecules, how it takes place. Then we studied about the process known as translocation, which takes place with the help of the phloem. Then we studied about the transpiration and why transpiration is known as the necessary evil. Then in the end, we studied about the vasculature system, which consists of the xylem and phloem. And in the end, we studied about the transpirational pull theory, also known as transpirational cohesion theory. So in this lecture, we'll be studying about the transportation in the humans, or you can say in the animals. All right. So initially, I will give you a brief introduction about this topic, and then we'll study rest of the topics. So in this lecture, we'll be studying about the transportation in the human beings, and then we'll study about the blood. We'll study about the blood vasculature system, and we'll study about the cellular components of the blood, and then we'll talk about the plasma. Then individually, we'll be studying about the RBCs, WBCs, and the platelets, and in the end, we'll be studying about the functions of the blood. All right, so let's start with today's lecture. So in humans, there is a circulatory system. In plants, we have the vasculature system. In humans, we have the circulatory system. So this circulatory system, it uses blood or lymph as a carrier of materials. Okay, so this carrier of materials is also known as the fluid exchange medium, and the heart as a pumping organ to help in circulation. So in human, the circulatory system, it consists of what? It consists of the blood vasculature system as well as the lymphatic system, or you can say the circulatory system is divided into two parts. First is the vasculature system, which consists of blood as the carrier. And the second is the lymphatic system, where lymph acts as a carrier. Okay. And you also know in the circulatory system, heart plays a very important role. So it acts as a pumping organ. So it helps in the circulation of the blood. All right. Now let's talk about the blood vasculature system first. So the higher multicellular animals with higher metabolic rate, they possess a well-developed blood vasculature system. Now, why we are talking about the metabolic rate? Because if a person has a higher metabolic rate, then it requires very well-developed vasculature system. Okay, so through the blood in the humans, lot of materials are transported to the tissues, such as oxygen, then nutrients, then vitamins, minerals. These are all transported through the blood. All right, and all these materials are required in the metabolic processes. So a higher multicellular organism, which are very complex, in those the metabolic rate is very high, and that require a very well developed vasculature system, so that there is very efficient transport of the materials that are required in the metabolic processes. Now this system helps in the quicker supply of the nutrients as well as oxygen to the body tissues, and also in the rapid disposal of toxic waste materials and carbon dioxide. So through blood, there is exchange of gases also, such as carbon dioxide and oxygen, and there is a very quick supply of the nutrients and the oxygen to the body tissues, where lot of metabolic processes are going. And there is a rapid disposal of the toxic waste also. So during the excretory system, you might have studied that blood carries all the nitrogenous waste, which are very toxic, and these nitrogenous waste, they are filtered in the kidneys. Okay, so that's why this blood vasculature system is very important. The first role is it helps in the supply of the nutrients. You can write supply of the nutrients as well as the oxygen. Second is the disposal of the toxic waste. as well as the gases such as the carbon dioxide. First, you can write it helps in the supply of nutrients, and then it is also required for the disposal of the toxins. Okay, now the blood acts as the circulatory fluid, it acts as a carrier, and the blood vascular system, it consists of blood, blood vessels, and the heart. So what are the parts of the blood vascular system? It consists of the blood, blood vessels, which carry the blood, and it consists of the heart, which is the pumping organ. Now let's talk about the blood first. Now blood is a specialized kind of a living connective tissue. Okay, so blood is a tissue, and tissue, it is made up of similar kind of cells. So what is a tissue? Tissue is made up of similar kind of cells. Okay, or you can say group of cells is known as tissue. So blood is a special kind of living connective tissue which is made to circulate by the muscular pumping organ known as the heart. Now in adult human beings, there is 5.5 to 6 liter of the blood flowing through the body. Now the blood has 4 main components. First one is the plasma, then second one is the red blood cell, white blood cell, and the platelets. So you can divide blood into 2 components. Okay, here 4 components are given, but you can also divide them into 2 categories. So blood can be divided into plasma. So plasma, it consists of all the acellular components, means it doesn't consist of the cell. And another one is the cellular components such as RBCs, WBCs, and platelets. So these are the cellular components. We'll talk about these cellular components as well plasma in the upcoming slide. Now if we talk about the plasma, it consists of 91% to 92% of water, and it consists of 8% to 9% of only solids. Now its primary components include the coagulants such as fibrinogen. So this fibrinogen is involved in the blood coagulation, and fibrinogen is further converted into the fibrin, and fibrin helps in the clotting. Okay, now this term you have to know, hem pieces. So this is the formation of the blood. The formation of blood is known as hem pieces. Okay, so now you know about the components of the blood, and also you know about the plasma, and these cellular components, you can say bathe in this plasma, or they are floating in the plasma. Now in the plasma, RBCs, WBCs, as well as the blood platelets, they float. Okay, now if we talk about the inorganic salts, these are only 0.9%. These are also present in the plasma. Okay, so plasma, we are talking about the plasma here. So plasma mostly contains water. 91 to 92% of water is present in the plasma. Apart from that, we have seen it consists of a lot of proteins such as coagulant proteins. Okay, and all the cellular components, WBCs, RBCs, and blood platelets, they float in the plasma. Alright, apart from that, it also contains inorganic salts. And what organic substances are present? These are glucose, amino acid, proteins, hormones, digested and waste excretory products. These are also present in the plasma. Now, what are the proteins present in the blood? So the blood protein level is 7%. So 7%. And what are the proteins present? Fibrinogen, albumin, globin, and prothrombin. So these are also present in the plasma. 7% protein is present. Now here is a note given. What is serum? If someone asks you what is a serum, serum is the plasma from which fibrinogen is removed. So if you remove this fibrinogen, which is involved in the coagulation, then you get the serum. Okay, so this was all about the plasma. It consists mostly of the water. Okay, it also consists of organic salt, it consists of organic substances also, and it also consists of 7% proteins and fibrogen, albumin, globin, and prothrombin. These are present in the plasma, or you can say in the blood, because plasma is a part of the blood. Now let's talk about the cellular components now. The first one is the red blood cell. These are also known as RBCs or erythrocytes. Now the number of RBCs is about 5.5 to 5.5 million in about 1 ml of the blood. And the total number of RBCs is about 30 billion. Okay, so there is a huge number. Alright, let's study about the structure of the RBCs. So these RBCs, they are biconcave disc-like structure and they are devoid of the nucleus. So this is a characteristic feature of human RBCs. So if we talk about the human RBCs, they lack the nucleus. They lack nucleus, alright, and they have biconcave disc-like structure. Now the mammalian erythrocytes, they do not possess the nuclei, mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum. So there is no nuclei present and there are no organelles present also. So mitochondria and endoplasmic reticulum, these are the cell organelles. But the erythrocytes, they contain the pigment known as hemoglobin, which gives red color to the blood. Okay, so erythrocytes, they contain the hemoglobin. So these are the characteristic feature of RBCs. And hemoglobin is what? Hemoglobin is a protein that carries oxygen. It is a protein that carries oxygen. All right. Now, hemoglobin, if you talk about the structure of the hemoglobin, it consists of a globulin protein. Okay, and it also consists of an iron containing porphyrin complex. So hemoglobin is made up of a porphyrin ring, or you can say porphyrin complex, and you call this porphyrin complex as heme, and it has a iron atom present in the center. So iron is in the form of 2+, and it also consists of the globin. That's why the name globin. So it consists of the protein which is known as the globin, and it also consists of the porphyrin ring, you can say, or the porphyrin complex, that is known as the heme. So you can break it, the hemoglobin word, heme and globin. So heme is this porphyrin complex and this globin is this protein. Okay. Now 100 ml of the blood contains 15 milligram of hemoglobin. So if the amount of hemoglobin in the blood is less, then the person suffers from anemia. This you must have seen, the anemia in the people that have anemia, the amount of hemoglobin is very less. Now, so these person will feel lethargic. Okay, they will feel weak also because hemoglobin, it carries oxygen. So they are not getting enough oxygen. So it will interfere with the metabolic processes because all these metabolic processes require oxygen. So if there is no efficient transport of the oxygen because the hemoglobin is very less, so the person will feel very weak. Now the hemoglobin, it carries the oxygen to different cells of the body and brings carbon dioxide from the cells. So this carbon dioxide is produced within the cells. Okay, so this carbon dioxide is a byproduct of all the metabolic processes or the biochemical reaction, and it is produced during the process known as respiration. So hemoglobin, it carries oxygen to different cells so that they can do all the metabolic activities, and it also brings the carbon dioxide, okay, from the cells, and then the carbon dioxide is liberated outside the body. If we talk about the lifespan of the RBCs, it is 120 days. And then after 120 days, the RBCs die. And how they die? They reach the spleen, and in the spleen, they degenerate or they die. Now let's talk about the white blood cell. The white blood cells are also known as leukocytes. The number of the leukocyte is comparatively fewer That is 1 ml of the blood contains only 5,000 to 10,000 leukocyte in humans. Now the total number of RBCs is about 75 millions. And the number of leukocyte, they increase the number of leukocyte, it increases in the infection case, such as pneumonia, blood cancer, which is also known as leukemia. So whenever there is an infection with a pathogen, or in the case of the blood cancer, which is also known as leukemia, the number of WBCs will increase. So they provide protection to the human. Now, if we talk about the size of the WBCs, they are large inside and they contain the nucleus. So RBCs, they were devoid of the nucleus, but WBCs, they contain the nucleus. Now, white blood cells, also known as the white blood corpuscles, they are again of two types, granulocytes and agranulocytes. So granulocytes, let's first talk about the granulocytes. In granulocytes, the cytoplasm contain granules and the nucleus is multi-lobed. Okay, means it consists of many lobes. Now, basophils, eosinophils and neutrophils, these are the three types of granulocytes. So granulocytes are further divided into, or they are further of three types: basophils, okay, eosinophils and neutrophils. Now, eosinophils and neutrophils, they are phagocytotic. What does mean by phagocytic? Means they can engulf and kill the harmful microbes. Okay, and this process is known as phagocytosis. So this phagocytosis process is also seen in amoeba. So in amoeba, what happens? With the help of pseudopodia, it can engulf the food material also, all right, or it can engulf the other unicellular cells also. So eosinophils and neutrophils, both of these have phagocytotic activity, and they are involved in the, or they provide the protection to the from the foreign pathogens. All right, what are foreign pathogens? These are microbes, and the process is known as phagocytosis. So they can engulf and they can kill the harmful microbes. Now, what is the function of basophils? So basophils, they release the histamine as well as the heparin. What is heparin? Heparin is used as it has anticoagulant activity. Okay, so it doesn't let the blood to clot. So what is the function of basophils? Basophils, they secrete heparin. They also secrete histamines also. Okay, histamines, they are involved in the allergic reaction. Now another category was the agranulocytes. So monocytes and the lymphocytes are the two types of agranulocytes. So granulocytes are again of two types, monocytes and lymphocytes. The lymphocytes, they secrete the antibodies which destroy the microbes. So they are the part of the immune system and they provide immunity. So these antibodies, they bind with the antigen and they form the antibody-antigen complex. Okay, and then this antigen, which are usually the microbe, these are destroyed. So lymphocytes, these lymphocytes, they secrete the antibodies. Antibodies are denoted by this symbol AB, and this antigen. So antigen can be these microbes also. It is denoted by this AG. So these antibodies form a complex with the antigen. So this is the complex, and then this later on this antigen. So this is the detection procedure. So this is how the antigen is detected, and then the antigen is destroyed. Now the monocytes are again phagocytic in nature. We have already discussed about the phagocytic nature. So, and the phenomena is known as phagocytosis. Now the third cellular components are the blood platelets. So these are small and they are without the nuclei, similar to RBCs. So their number varies from 0.15 to 0.4 million in 1 ml of the blood. Okay, and these platelets are involved in the coagulation. And what is the lifespan of these? So normal lifespan of the blood platelets is 1 week. Now these help in blood clotting at the site of the injury by liberating thromboplastin. So they are involved in the blood clotting. Okay, what is thromboplastin? Thromboplastin is also known as the thrombokinase. So these are enzyme. Okay, enzyme, or you can say it is a plasma protein that facilitate the blood coagulation by catalyzing the transformation of prothrombin to thrombin. So this thromboplastin, it helps in the, or it catalyzes the conversion of prothrombin to thrombin. So what is thrombin? Thrombin is again an active enzyme. Okay. And what is the role of thrombin? It converts fibrinogen into fibrin. Okay. So it converts fibrinogen into fibrin, and fibrin helps in the clotting. All right. So this is an image showing you the cellular components. Here you can see the granulocytes and the agranulocytes. Okay, and as well as you can see the platelets here. These are the erythrocytes. Erythrocytes are known as the red blood cells with RBCs. Okay, and here you can see types of WBCs also. Here is the neutrophil. These are the monocytes. Monocyte looks like this. These are the lymphocytes, and these are the basophils. We have already studied about the structure and the function of all of these. Platelets, they are involved in the coagulation. RBCs, they consist of the hemoglobin protein, which helps in the transportation of the oxygen as well as the carbon dioxide. Okay, here you can see monocytes, eosinophils, neutrophils. Okay, some of them have the phagocytotic role. Okay, so you should know which cells have the phagocytotic role and which cells they secrete heparin and the histamine. So basophils for the cells that secrete heparin as well as the histamine. Now let's talk about the functions of the blood. Okay, so blood is very important. The blood performs the following function. First is the transportation of the nutrients. So the digested and the absorbed nutrients like glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, they are first transported to the liver. Okay, and then to all the tissues for their storage, oxidation, and synthesis of the new substances. So glucose, you already know glucose is oxidized. Okay, so what happens? Glucose is C6H12O6. So this is oxidized, means in the presence of the oxygen, it liberates energy and it also liberates carbon dioxide. So this process is known as respiration. All right, and then the excess material is stored in the body, which is later used for the production of the energy, and these substances are also used for the synthesis of the new substances. Okay, the second role is the transportation of the respiratory gases. So respiratory gases, which are oxygen and the carbon dioxide, these are transported by the blood. Now, oxygen is transported from the respiratory surface such as lung, skin, and the buccal cavity. The buccal cavity, it is a part of the mouth and it consists of the teeth, tongue, and the salivary glands. But oxygen is transported through these respiratory surfaces. Lung is also involved in the exchange of the gases. Exchange of gases can also take place with the help of skin. So in humans, exchange of gases through skin is very minimum. All right. So to the tissues, and the carbon dioxide from the tissues is taken to the respiratory organ for the removal. Alright, so carbon dioxide, which is generated in the cells due to the metabolic processes, this carbon dioxide is taken to the respiratory organ for its removal. Then it is released into the atmosphere. Detailed about this you will study in the chapter respiration. Now, third importance is the transportation of the excretory products. Now, different waste from the different parts of the body, they are collected by the blood and then taken to the organs such as kidney, lungs, skin, and the intestine, from where they are excreted. So you will study what is the main excretory organ. Kidneys. Kidney, you can say they are the main, or they are the primary excretory organ. Okay, kidneys, what they generate? They generate the urine. And through urine, the toxic materials or the waste product, they are eliminated out of the body. Lungs, okay, they help in the exchange of the gases, so they help to release the carbon dioxide. Skin, again, it through the sweat, all the waste material are released out of the body. Intestine also, so through intestine also, a lot of materials are thrown out of the body. Now let's talk about transportation of the hormones. So blood is also involved in the transportation of the hormones. Now hormones, they are produced by the endocrine glands. Okay, so endocrine glands are involved in the transportation of the hormones. What are endocrine glands? Endocrine glands are ductless glands. They don't consist of the ducts and they directly release their secretion into the blood. Okay, so they directly release their secretion into the blood, or you can say they release the secretion into the blood. So these are known as the endocrine gland, and their primary function is to produce hormones. And these hormones, they are required for the regulation of lot of activities. One such activity is the formation of, you can say, urine, all right, or some other activities also. Now these hormones have their target organs, so they work at a specific organ. This is known as the place of act. Now these are carried by the plasma of the blood. So blood has two components we have seen. First one was the plasma, another was the cellular components, or you can say blood consists of four components: blood, RBCs, WBCs, and the platelets. Or majorly, you can say blood consists of two components only: plasma and the cellular components. So these hormones, they are carried out, they are present in the plasma, okay, and they bring about the coordination in the working of the body. Okay, now another function is the maintenance of the pH. The blood also helps to maintain the pH. Now the plasma proteins, they act as a buffer system and they maintain the required pH for the body tissues. So this pH is very important. Otherwise, you know, these biochemical reactions, they take place inside the cells, they take place inside the tissues. So an optimum pH is required. Otherwise, all these metabolic processes, they will not work, they will not function. So maintaining the optimum pH is very important, and this optimum pH is maintained by the proteins that are present in the plasma. And these proteins, they act as the buffer system. What is the buffer system? Which resists any change. Okay. So if there is a change, it will resist the change. It acts as the buffer system. All right. So this is the role of the, or these are the function of the hormones. Now another function of, these are the function of the blood. Another function of blood is the regulation of the body temperature. All right. So what happens? The blood flows in all the parts of the body. So it equalizes the body temperature. So as the blood flows across the body, it maintains the body temperature and it carries the heat from one place to the another place in the body, and that's how it regulates the body temperature. So as the blood moves, it also carries out the heat that is produced in the cells. So how is this heat generated? Again, this heat is generated due to a lot of metabolic processes, okay, or you can say metabolic reaction that is taking place inside the cell. Some of the reactions, they are exergonic. In exergonic reaction, the energy is released. The energy is released. Okay. And this energy is released, and the energy is also released in the form of heat also. Okay. And this heat is transported from one place to the another within the body through blood. All right. So these were the functions of the blood. Now let's talk about the another function, transportation of the metabolic intermediates. So there are a lot of intermediates that are produced during the metabolic reaction, and these intermediates are required for the synthesis, or they take part in the other cycles, and they are involved in the synthesis of different kind of molecules. Now the blood carries the metabolic intermediates from one tissue to the another for further metabolism. Okay, so in the muscle cells, due to anaerobic respiration, lactic acid is produced. So this you already know. When you do vigorous exercise, then what happens? There is limited oxygen or there is no oxygen available, and then the glucose is converted into lactic acid, and then you get the muscle cramps. So this happens during the anaerobic respiration, or you can say during the lack of the oxygen. So when you do lot of physical exercise, lot of vigorous exercise, then due to the lack of oxygen, lactic acid is produced. Now this lactic acid is carried to the liver first for further oxidation. All right, this is clear. So this is an product which is a metabolic intermediate. So this is metabolized in the liver, and when it is metabolized, its level decreases, and then there are no muscle cramps then. Now it also helps to maintain the water balance. Now the blood maintains the water balance to constant level by distributing it uniformly in the body. Okay, other function is the protection from the diseases. So when we have already discussed, when there is infection by some pathogens, then the number of the leukocyte or the WBCs increase. Now WBCs can be of these type: eosinophils, neutrophils, and monocytes. Now these WBCs, they have phagocytosis role. Okay, we have already discussed about the phagocytosis. So these cells are phagocytosis, and they engulf the bacteria and other disease causing organisms, and they protect the humans from diseases. So they fight against these pathogens. Now the lymphocyte, they produce antibodies. We were talking about the lymphocyte also. They produce the antibodies that neutralize the actions of the toxins that are produced by the pathogens, or you can say the antigens. So antigens are nothing but these are the foreign particles. These are the foreign particles. All right. Now it also helps in the clotting of the blood. So blood consists of the clotting factors. It consists of the blood platelets. So the blood forms a clot at the site of the injury and thus prevents the further loss of the blood. Now this you have to note here. What happens in certain conditions? So there is a blood pressure that is maintained in the blood. All right, so a certain blood pressure is maintained. Okay, now this pressure is maintained in the arteries, and due to this, what happens? The tissues become stiff, as in the case of, you can see in the erection of the nipples, in the clitoris, which is a part of the female reproductive organ, and in the penis. Okay, so there is erection of the penis as well as the erection of the clitoris and the nipples. These are due to the pressure that is present in the blood or that is present in the arteries. So this is also a function of the blood. All right. So this was this end of this session. We'll talk about rest of the topics in the next session. Thank you very much for listening.